Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Arkenshield. Arkenshield is brought to you by Mad Mackie Games. It's for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games range anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes. In Arkenshield, the Royal City is your starting point for your expedition, and it will take you all the way across the continent. From here, you'll set out to face thrilling adventures and perilous challenges. You'll pass by endless grassy plains, advance into the depths of impenetrable forests, traverse the Obsidian Islands of the Westbound Reach, enter the legendary city of Outer Sands, leave the hostile Great Salt Desert behind you, walk the mysterious Nowhere Trail, find a way through Stonewalled Lives, and finally, after slipping past the Great Ice Wall and its dangerous narrow places, arrive, emaciated and exhausted, at the foot of the mighty fortress in the ice, and here your greatest test awaits you. Gather companions around you, overcome epic tests, and vanquish the mighty walls of the Citadel. And always remember, in the contest to conquer this land, you're competing with other players. To claim the glory, be the one who, using a well thought out strategy, captures treasures or victory points and valuable objects at the right points in the game in order to claim the ultimate victory. Now, before we get started, it's really important to note that the cards you're seeing here on the table are just prototype. They are the artwork in like line art or black and white form. The final cards are going to be fully color illustrated and they look beautiful. I'll show you a couple examples here. But if you want more examples, definitely go check out the campaign page. So for this video, we are going to be focusing on the single player experience. If you want to see what the other game modes look like, definitely go check out the campaign page for that, as well as additional videos and things that they have available. But here, we're going to be taking on this boss level character. Again, in the end, it's all about getting the most victory points, but this boss will be traversing through the world, and as he does, he'll be trying to affect the things you're doing. Maybe limiting the cards or changing out the cards that you're trying to access, things like that. But they'll be gathering victory points just like you will be, and it's going to be a race to see who can get the most. Now, regardless of what mode you're playing in, be it single player, multiplayer, whatever, you are going to have your own player board, along with a starting set of cards that are going to give you resources as you move through the game. There's like 7 shields and 3 of the daggers, I believe. And then you've got your starting champion, which is an archer, and it's starting resources, along with an experience points that goes at the top of the card. Now, there's another champion that you have a potential of hiring, but once you get to the end along the Victory Road track. Now, the Victory Road, you'll set that up, you'll take all the corresponding tiles, 1 to 5, and place them in their spots. You'll obviously shuffle these up and put them out randomly. Now, there's 2 different paths to this road. There's a secret path across the top, which will move you along the road much quicker, but you may not gain as much victory points along the way doing so. So you hopefully will still be ready by the time you reach the end of this trek. But really, again, the game is about getting victory points. So you may use the shortcut for a bit and then drop back down to the longer road and so forth. And then you have the central board. This is where you're going to be buying all your cards to add to your deck. It is a deck builder after all. Now, you'll basically shuffle up the decks really well and you'll put them in 2 piles and then place them out on the board. Now for the commander or this boss level character that you're up against. You have a series of challenge cards that you can shuffle up and draw one randomly, or you could just choose one of the commanders to play against. You'll find their corresponding standee and put it at the start of their trek through the world. And you can see here, you're going to set up a series of level 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, just kind of like you did for the Victory Road, but this is their trek, and they're going to be moving along. So the game in triggers is who can get to the 5th area of their road first, and then you're going to calculate points. Now, there's no dice in this game, but there are resource tokens you're going to be accessing. You've got green for influence, red for power, blue for experience, and then you have coins, which are basically your victory points throughout the game. Now, the whole first part of your turn is really all about gathering resources. So one of the first things you're looking at is your champions, or companions, I should say, and you're refilling their basic type of resource and putting it on their cards. Now, you also are going to be looking at this Victory Road across the top. Do you have your standee or your figure on any one position? If you do, you look to see what resources you gain from that. Now, you're going to be playing cards from your hand, and it is a deck builder, so you will have 6 cards to start, and you'll play these out, and depending on the order you play them in may get you additional bonuses and things, but you'll lay them out and gather those resources as well, all in preparation for either spending on the central board or moving along the victory road. Now, if you have multiple companions in play, you need to check the handy reference guide at the bottom of your board, because based on those sets, you may get bonus or additional resources to spend. And let's take a look at spending. Obviously, you're going to the center area of the board. As a deck builder, you're trying to acquire cards, specifically the green ones, the influence ones are going to be like swords and shields. You'll pay the cost at the top, you'll flip the card over and put it at the top of your draw deck. Now, there's other enemies that come into play that you have to use power, the red tokens, red resources to defeat. And if they have a victory point gather at the bottom, you'll gather those victory points or gold, and you'll discard the card. But others may have a 0, and which means you're going to be placing them in a captured spot on your board, and for every 3 of those, you'll get a victory point. So lots of different enemies, lots of different ways to deal with them. And as well, on this track, you'll have events and emotions that come into play. You'll have to keep an eye on those on your turn because they may affect your resources and what you have available to work with. And there's tracking tokens to see when and how they've been used throughout the game. But those will come out along this track as well. Now, you have to balance this because you are also moving along the victory road. So let's take a look at that. Now, there's 2 paths here. You have the shortcut across the top, and below that you have the main road. And there's all these connecting lines. You have to make sure you follow those connecting lines, moving along the shortcut or to the main road and back and forth. So the reason you might be dipping down into the main road versus the shortcut is that you will need more challenges. You need to gain more types of victory from going to the different areas and so forth. So the thing here though is that wherever you're starting or wherever you're going next, you'll flip over the tile and you have to see if you can meet the challenge that it calls for. It's going to be resources typically like power and influence that you have to put together to defeat an enemy. And based on that, you'll also take a look at the icons below the tile. The first icon is the number of experience points that are required for you to move into this spot. And again, your experience points are all located with your companions. So the more companions you get, the further you can move along the road. You have quite a ways you can go with 1 experience, but then soon, about midpoint, you're going to start needing 2 experience, and then 3 and 4 and 5. So you're going to have to put those companions together for use for sure to help you move along the road and meet your final objectives. But along the way, you're really trying to gather those different types of victory points. And how that works is however many resources you spent to succeed in this challenge will be the number of victory points that you gain. Then it's time for the commander or the NPC to take their turn. So one of the things you're looking at throughout the game, throughout every turn, is the fact that these commanders can affect you negatively. In the case of this one, in every turn you will lose 1 influence, but they all will do very different things. And now, they're going to be moving along their expedition or their track just like you were moving along the victory road. And what you're doing is you're flipping over the very next available slot for them. And on this card, you'll see everything in dark affects them directly. And then at the very bottom of the card will affect the cards in the middle. Now, the cards in the middle, when you see a red X, you're just going to be replacing them with a new card. So cards you hope to get next round might be gone. They are a devious lot, these commanders. Now, anything in the lighter colored area will affect you directly, like losing influence, things like that. So they will move onto that slot and you'll follow the instructions on each of the cards as they move. And they're going to be moving every round, doing bad things to you potentially. So it does, like I said before, it becomes a race to see who can get the most victory points and get to the end the fastest. Now, the other thing to note on these is that sometimes there's assassins that come up, and on your very next turn, you have to deal with the assassin before you do anything else. So those are the basics of what you're doing on your turn, and you're trying to get more victory points than your opponent in either the single player game or in the multiplayer game. And again, in the multiplayers, there's all kinds of different configurations. You can do 2-on-2, you can have 2-on-1, and obviously head-to-head. and you're going to see who can get the most victory points there as well. But using the road to your advantage and gaining points that way is really, really good. But then you also balance spending all your resources against getting new cards and moving along that road, which is really interesting. But ultimately, whoever has the most will be the winner. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this is a deck builder, and if you like deck builders, this really does add additional elements to that type of gameplay. Moving along the road, dealing with challenges, really well done. A lot of the interesting choices to be made, and how the different events come up, and things of that nature. And of course, there's all the different modes you can play in. The single player, you can go head to head, or you can have like teams, 2-on-2. So a lot of different ways to play this game for sure. And there's all kinds of expansions planned that add tons more to this game. So a lot of neat things to check out. And ultimately, folks, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.